The rain began like a whisper, gentle, uncertain, before turning fierce, drumming against the tin roofs of the sleeping village. In the distance, thunder rolled over the hills, and the wind carried the faint scent of smoke and sorrow. Under a collapsed shed near the outskirts sat Artilla, a boy of 12, his face smeared with mud and tears. The fire that had taken his parents had also taken the light from his eyes. He had been wandering for 2 days, hungry, barefoot, and alone. No one in the village wanted an orphan. To them, orphans were bad luck, reminders of pain and pity. The neighbors, who once smiled at his parents, now closed their doors when he passed. The boy curled into himself, clutching a torn blanket that smelled faintly of his mother's hands. His stomach rumbled, his lips trembled. And then, through the rain, came a soft sound, the faint patting of paws. From the shadows emerged a scruffy brown dog, thin as a shadow, with intelligent eyes that glowed even in the dark. It stopped a few feet away, studying the boy. Artilla blinked. "Go away," he muttered weakly. "I don't have food." But the dog didn't leave. It tilted its head, then disappeared into the rain. Moments later, it returned, carrying a half-eaten piece of bread, soggy but still edible. It dropped the bread near Artilla and wagged its tail, as if urging him to eat. The boy stared, disbelief breaking through his grief. "You brought this?" The dog barked softly. Something inside Artilla broke, not in pain, but in wonder. He reached out, and the dog came closer, letting him touch its wet fur. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice trembling. "You're not just a dog, you're a friend." That was the beginning. He named him Tamo. Days turned into weeks. The villagers began to notice the strange pair, the orphan boy and his loyal dog. Each morning, Artilla would sit by the broken fence of the old market, waiting for Tamo. Each evening, the dog would return, dragging scraps from the nearby eatery, bones, bread, sometimes even a roasted yam. No one knew how the dog found food every day. Some said Tamo had a gift. Others whispered that he was cursed. But Artilla didn't care. For 2 years, Tamo was his world, his guardian, his brother, his family. When the boy cried, the dog licked his tears. When the cold bit through the night, Tamo curled against him, keeping him warm. When loneliness howled louder than the wind, Tamo barked back, as if to say, "You're not alone." By the time Artilla turned 15, he had learned to fend for himself. He started working at the very eatery where Tamo once stole food. The owner, a kind widow named Mama Reka, took pity on him. "You're a hard-working boy," she told him one afternoon, "but that dog, he's got more loyalty than most men I've met." Artilla smiled. "He saved my life, Ma. I owe him everything." As Artilla grew, he began to make friends, or so he thought. 3 boys, Kima, tall and cunning, Philo, always nervous and eager to please, and Drix, the oldest and the cruelest, often came to eatery corners laughing, pretending to be his friends. At first, they admired him for his hard work and humility, but soon envy began to fester. "He acts like that dog is his father," Drix sneered one evening. "Pathetic." Kima chuckled. "You'd think he's training that animal to be human." Philo hesitated. "Still, it's kinda sweet." Drix's eyes flashed. "Sweet? It's weakness. He chooses a mutt over people. Let's see how he lives without it." It happened on a night heavy with thunder. a night that would break Artilla's heart forever. The moon was swallowed by clouds. The wind howled through the trees. Artilla had stayed late at the eatery, cleaning up after the day's work. He had left Tamo at home, too tired to bring him along. That was when Kima, Philo, and Drix made their move. Under the cover of darkness, they lured Tamo into the woods with a piece of meat. The dog, ever trusting, followed them, wagging his tail, expecting kindness. But kindness wasn't what waited for him there. When the first blow came, Tamo yelped. When the second came, he whimpered. By the third, he stopped moving. Philo dropped the stick, his hands shaking. Enough! Enough, Drix! He's dying! Drix's face was cold, twisted with something darker than anger. Good. Let's see how the orphan cries now. Kema hesitated, guilt flickering in his eyes. We shouldn't have done this. But it was too late. The deed was done. When Artilla returned home, he noticed the silence first. Usually, Tamo would run to him, tail wagging, barking joyfully. But tonight, there was nothing. Only the whisper of the wind through the grass. "Tamo?" he called softly. No answer. He searched the small shack. Empty. He whistled, a sharp sound that Tamo always responded to. Still, nothing. Panic began to crawl up his chest. He grabbed a lantern and rushed into the night, calling, "Tamo! Tamo, where are you?" Hours passed. His voice cracked from shouting. Then, near the stream by the woods, he saw it. A shape lying still on the ground. His heart froze. And then he turned and walked away. Word spread across the village. Some said Artilla had gone mad. Others said his forgiveness was divine. But those who looked closely saw something different in his eyes. Not madness, but peace. He visited Tamo's grave every morning, laying fresh flowers. He would talk to him softly, telling him about his day, about the weather, about the customers at the eatery. Sometimes he would laugh quietly. Sometimes he would just sit in silence, listening to the wind move through the leaves. Years passed. The boy became a man. His kindness spread through the village like dawnlight after a long night. When someone was hungry, Artilla fed them. When someone was lonely, he listened. He never turned anyone away, not even the ones who had once mocked him. One afternoon, an old, ragged man came to the eatery. His hair was gray, his eyes haunted. Artilla recognized him instantly. Drix. The once proud boy, now limp, thin, and broken. He lowered his head. "I came to ask forgiveness." Artilla looked at him for a long time. The years had softened his anger, but not his memory. "Sit," he said gently. "You look hungry." He brought food, warm rice and meat, and placed it before him. Drix's hands shook as he ate, tears falling into the bowl. When he finished, Artilla spoke quietly. "I forgave you long ago. I just hoped one day you'd forgive yourself." Drix bowed his head, sobbing. "I don't deserve it." Artilla smiled faintly. "Neither did I deserve the love of a dog, but he gave it anyway." Years later, when Artilla grew old, the villagers began to tell stories about him. The orphan boy who lived for kindness. They said he built a small shelter by the stream, where stray dogs and abandoned animals were cared for. He called it Tamo's Haven. Children from nearby towns would come to play with the animals, and Artilla would tell them, "Love doesn't need words. Sometimes it just needs a wagging tail." One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of gold, Artilla sat beneath the mango tree where Tamo rested. His hair was gray now, his hands rough with age, but his eyes, those eyes, still carried the light of loyalty. He closed them and whispered, "I'm coming home, Tamo." When the wind blew gently through the leaves, it sounded almost like a bark, faint, joyful, eternal. And when the villagers found him the next morning, he was smiling, peaceful as if asleep, beside the grave of the dog who once saved an orphan's life. They buried him beside Tamo, under the same tree where their story began. And on the wooden cross above the graves, someone carved the words, "Love is not measured by blood, but by sacrifice. Artilla and Tamo, brothers forever." The end.